Hey, it's Soleil, and this is episode 39 of the Red Pill to Orange Pill Investor. And MicroStrategy is up 16%. And this is one of the events that you have to prepare yourself for. So I would love to just be jumping up and down. But as you can see, even though MicroStrategy is the largest holding that I have, my account's only up 4.5%. And that's because I sacrificed all the upside above the $500 strike. Where is it? There we go. So I got paid $575. Now it's worth $8,400. So the person on the other side of this trade actually got the $8,000. I still get the $575, but they're going to get, depending on what MicroStrategy closes at tomorrow, they can actually, I'll probably have to close this very early, because this person could, it's generally not beneficial to exercise their option, but when you buy a call, that gives you the right but not the obligation to buy shares at this other price, at the strike price. So this person could tell Robinhood, I want to exercise this option. They would then buy my 100 shares of MicroStrategy for $500, because that's what we agreed on, and then they could turn around and sell them for $590, which would give them $9,000 profit. And it is annoying as shit when you see big surges like this. And I have to check and see, is it Bitcoin? Well, I think all of the Bitcoin stocks were up. Oh yeah, so Bitcoin is surging today. And so I'm calling this series the Red Pilled Orange Pill Investor. And so if you're orange pilled, I think most of the consensus is that if you can handle buying Bitcoin and self-custodying it and storing it properly on a hardware wallet and keeping your own private keys safe, that you should do that. I mean, just looking at Bitcoin over 5 years, it's up 1,234%. 1 year, it's up 98%. Basically, it's doubled. So if you can do this, and you can just buy Bitcoin and kind of forget about it. Don't forget about it to the point where you can't remember how to access it. But just don't be in here checking the price all the time. Set it and forget it. Basically. However, I prefer to trade in the stock market. I do, of course, self-custody some portion of Bitcoin. And but I also have I would probably way more invested in the stock market itself. However, so Bitcoin is very volatile, and so it's up. I mean, it says 2% today, but that's probably not counting. Yeah, it's really up like 5%. So it shot up from 40 to 43 to 45, and MicroStrategy is a leveraged play. So whatever Bitcoin does, MicroStrategy has the potential to go to extremes in that direction. So when Bitcoin went to 45 and then it collapsed back down to 40, I can't remember if it went under 40. That's why MicroStrategy was close to 700. And then crashed back down to 450. So you're going to get these big moves, and that may or may not make MicroStrategy optimal for even selling covered calls. Some of the earliest descriptions I read and saw videos about for trading covered calls was like, oh, look for something that doesn't change too much and trade, might trade sideways because you can still profit. Now, I still disagree. I still want to For me, a covered call is still a long position. It's just a limited long position. You still own the underlying asset and you're still wanting it to go up, whatever your call away value is. You're wanting it to go up at least that much every week. And so while this is annoying that, I only profited, my account's only going up 4.5% this week. And I would very much have liked it to go up, probably would have doubled if I didn't have this covered called on. But yes, would I have liked to participated in all of this upside? Of course. But in the long run, it doesn't matter. And I've said it before, this isn't supposed to be the strategy that can get the most value. It's the safest strategy. So for me, it's the optimal strategy because you don't know that this is going to go up 16% in one day. And so, for next week, accounting for like $60, let's have half of that, so $30, going to the 620 call, whereas I was only able to get $900 in premium last week, I can get $1,500 probably this week. So even though I'm not able to participate in the 16%, now my weekly premium is going to be 50% greater than it was last week. And so the amount that I spent on MicroStrategy is the same. However, now I'm going to be able to demand 50% more premium on the same amount of money. Okay, actually that's not true because I'm gonna have to pay $8,000 to roll this if I want to, which means I would probably have to sell some of the other shares that I have. Actually, I'm not even sure if I have enough. That'll be interesting to see if I have enough buying power with margin to roll this for next week. So might have to make a deposit, might have to do some switcher. Oh, absolutely, yeah. So I could easily sell some Tesla shares to cover that, but I would prefer not to. Actually, it might be a good opportunity to switch my shares of Tesla over to a poor man's covered call. Let me see if I go out 340 days. And let's see, around a 0.7 delta. Okay, so it would cost me about $5,000. Is that it? Could be a little bit safer and go for like a 0.75, 0.8. 150 is a nice round number. Bunch of open interest. I could buy this for $6,000 and still sell covered calls against it. Yep, might end up doing that. Okay, that might be a winner. So we'll see. I absolutely do not want to give up my MicroStrategy shares. So that'll be interesting dilemma to see how I have to pull some switcheroos on this tomorrow. All right, but I'm glad I checked that. I think that's a good plan. I might dump these Tesla shares and get a Leaps, which is a long-term exploratory anticipatory security. You basically buy a deep in the money. This is a little scary though. This is how I got wrecked. When Tesla and Bitcoin crashed 2 years ago, I got absolutely wrecked with poor man's covered calls. I was so used to making money that I did not realize how dangerous they are. So let's just describe how this could go terribly wrong. So let's say I buy this 150 leaps option. It's a 0.79 delta. Some people go a little higher, like all the way to 0.9. The closer this gets to 1, the more it becomes a synthetic stock. So this delta means that as the price of the stock changes, the price of this option will change 93 cents on a dollar. So every time Tesla moves a dollar, this option would move 93 cents. So it makes it almost like a synthetic stock. Well, if I buy this 150 call for $6,000, and then the price drops, let's say $50, now it's probably going to be worth like half that. So even though Tesla only dropped 25%, the price of my $6,000 leaps would only be worth $3,000. So that's how you can get absolutely wrecked with these. I'm tempted to do it with Tesla because to me, Tesla is embarrassingly cheap. Doesn't mean that it can't drop 10, 20%. And the danger in that is, so the reason why you do want to buy something, 150 might be a little greedy. So maybe doing like a 125 would be safer. Because if you, let's just do this and we'll check the graph. If we put a 2 option call here, we put this together, and let's just give a little bit of upside here to the 195. So if the price of Tesla drops, we can lose, a ton of money. If the Tesla price drops to 125, which would be my strike, then this, well, we would lose, that would get wrecked. But the worst part about it is now I'd be looking at a leaps that is at the money. If the price of Tesla dropped to 125, now it would be very difficult to construct a poor man's covered call, because now, let's just do it this at the money. So 344. If I bought a call that's at the money, and I try to do this 195 strike, you can see that now there's this narrow green band, and if the price of Tesla were to shoot up past 217, I would actually lose more on the covered call than the leaps. It's not, I don't even know if it would be considered a leaps, but that the long call would increase, because 185 call. So the delta on the covered call is 0.66. The delta on the long call is only 0.64. So the price of the long call is only going up 64 cents, but the price of the short call would be changing 66 cents. So that puts you in a very bad position. So if I buy a 120, if I buy a 150 call and then the price drops down to 150, it's going to be very hard to put a poor man's covered call together and still be able to gather premium, which puts you in bag holding position. Now you're just stuck holding this thing, hoping it bounces back up. And that's not a position that you want to be in. So generally people will go way down here and buy something that has a 0.8, 0.9 delta. I mean, some people might go all the way to 100. What's that? Probably 0.93. Yeah, but this would cost 10 grand compared to the 6. And let's just look and see what the initial requirement for Tesla is. Already 50%. So you might as well just own 100 shares at the 50% maintenance requirement. If you're going to buy the $100 leaps and be that deep in the money, you're really not saving any money that you're not already saving by using margin in the first place. Now, you can turn margin off and then just buy that leaps, and you're only paying half price. You can still sell the covered calls against it. And in that scenario, you're not exposing yourself to any margin risk, and you're only exposing yourself to getting wrecked if the price of Tesla, if the price of Tesla drops. So it'll be interesting. It'll be interesting to see what kind of switcheroos I got to do tomorrow to make this work. I'm absolutely keeping my MicroStrategy shares. The amount of call away value and premium is very impressive to me. At the money, was that 1% or $6? So like 3.5% at the money. You can get, what did I say? The 625. Well, shit, it's climbing. So the 630, you can get about 2% and 5% call away value. So the 5 and the 2, you get 2% guaranteed and 5% upside. Going all the way to 1% is I want to say it's not greedy enough, but it would have been perfect this past week to only get 1%, only grab 1% and then be able to absorb all of that upside. And maybe that's the right way to play this. But now, since I've already missed out on this surge, I definitely, I don't know if it's wise, but I'm definitely motivated to try to collect some more premium at around, why did this jump from 625 to 645? I wonder if there'll be some more strikes available tomorrow. I would go for the 630 if possible. This isn't bad. This is a 0.33 delta. 0.35. This is probably going to be 0.2 something. Yeah, 0.25. Yeah, I would really prefer the 630 strike, but I don't know if the 630 will be available tomorrow. A lot of times, every increment is not available because there's not enough interest. Like right now,
their share is greater than that of the G7. It has nothing to do with the event in Ukraine. This is due to the trends of global development and world economy.
We can hear that
just now.
But that was
this is inevitable. This will keep happening. It is like the rise of the sun. You cannot prevent the sun from rising. You have to adapt to it.
Why the hell
How
is
do the United States adapt? With the help of force, sanctions, pressure, bombing.
Tucker Carlson, Vladimir Putin interview playing for no reason? If my FBI handler is listening, stay out of my phone, please. All right. Maybe that means I'm supposed to talk about it. I don't know. I try to keep this, I've tried to mostly keep this about options, but, who am I kidding? Nobody's watching this shit anyway right now at this point. But do you talk about certain things and piss people off and turn away people, or do you talk about whatever the hell you want to talk about, and then people can come and go as they please? I've only listened to half the interview, but I will say so far, my first instinct is that I'm not sure term limits on the U.S. presidency is a good idea. Listening to Putin talk about having to deal with Bush, I can't remember if it was both Bushes, I think at least Bush Jr., Clinton, Obama, and Trump. It's kind of like, how do you make handshake deals or have any kind of confidence whatsoever if the person is constantly changing on that you're dealing with? And I'm an anarchist, so I don't even think there should be an executive office, period. However, if there's going to be one, it might as well be a consistent one that has a long-term interest. Because if they have to just get in and get out in 4 to 8 years, where's the incentive to have long-term vision? I mean, China has they probably have like 1,000-year plan. And the United States has like a 10-year plan, probably at best. I don't think these motherfuckers can hold a strategic candle to some of these other these other cultures and other countries that have a long game. Remains to be seen, but yeah, that's my first take, is that term limits for senators maybe, but the president, and FDR had several terms, and he was a giant piece of shit, but at least it would have been able to be like, hey, we know who we're going to be could potentially be dealing with for the next 20 years. It's almost kind of like a professional football team that fires their coach every year, and the quarterback has a new playbook every year that he has to learn. He just has no idea who his coaches are going to be, and you can't win long term like that. So that was my first take. I still got to watch the other half, but I'm still trying to figure out which parts are true, which truths or which lies are contain a grain of truth. Half of it, I think some of the smart analysts that I've listened to are kind of saying some of the similar things. He's definitely keeping a lot hidden. He's not going to, especially about the Nord Stream. I'm sure he probably does have evidence, but he's holding that back. Or that could just be a bluff. He may not have any evidence whatsoever, but everybody kind of knows who did it anyway. So, what evidence does he really need? He kind of said as much. But anyway, I don't know what spiked Bitcoin, other than we should be in the next bull market anyway. So it, hopefully it goes to the moon, and the MicroStrategy will go to the moon with it, as will some of these other smaller and cheaper Bitcoin mining stocks. And fun times. It'd be nice if Tesla would get on board. I'm still upside down on Tesla, but I'm not sure if I finished my. So this average cost also doesn't account for times like this. So if I roll if I pay the $8,000 and roll this call to next week, it's not gonna add that $80 a share to this, and it's not gonna say, oh, well, you really paid $527 a share. But that's technically, I know that it happened. But I used to pay attention. I used to put it on the spreadsheet, and it just all works out. So I really don't care to go through that detail anymore. I prefer to make as much money as possible with as little effort as possible. So I've already done enough research into Bitcoin and Tesla to decide that those are the assets I'm investing in. So I'm not gonna spend a bunch of time figuring out this, that, and the other thing. That just, the only limited resource you have is your time. So I protect my time at all costs. So of course I want to make money, but I want to make as much money per minute of time that I spend. So and having that being said, I should probably stop wasting time and end the freaking video. So that's it for now. Be good, y'all.